Yo, welcome back to the Political Soul Food Podcast. It's your boy, Dr. Henry. Yo, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. But we're going to be back in business. Indeed. I've been trying to set up some videos, some different approaches to using the platform. But I started and didn't finish it. So I was like, let me just hop on here, talk about what's going on. I wanted to respond on here one day to the recent 2024 presidential election. Anybody who chops it up with me know I'm very disappointed, but not surprised that Trump won. And there are a lot of different things people can say about how he won. But at the end of the day, for me, it's why he won and who supported him. There are different motivations for voting for Donald Trump, and I think the most important motivation is the one that comes from racism in America. That's the main part. There are a lot of African Americans who are deceived into voting for him, and their deception is kind of normal. They are outliers compared to the total population of Black Americans. And if you know anything about statistics, you're going to have some outliers. And so that is not too surprising. A lot of people are making a bigger fuss than warranted on the number of Black folks supporting him. Now, it's a lot. Always too many for us to see African American certain people not to see that something that at this point I don't know if I can even talk about. So that's not really the main issue. The main issue is coming from the core voters, the predominant voters, which are hardcore conservative white folks who have been very upset about the increased diversification of the populace. So, in other words, the United States is expanding, the demography is expanding and diversifying. And there are people who have long expressed prior to 2024 their frustration with this, to the point where the United States even stopped celebrating the increase of immigrants because they only want certain kinds of immigrants, mainly European. So, dealing with that, the white rage, as Dr. Carol Anderson puts it, is really responsible for everything that has helped Trump be reelected. And so that is really where the main focus is. It's, child's play to think about. It's almost a waste of time to even engage now. People say, oh, I was voting for him because of the economics, the price of eggs. We're not really dealing with a full bag of marbles upstairs in the head. It's just what it is. Even Trump himself was like, not too long ago, about changing the prices of food and eggs. That's going to be kind of tough. And it's like he wasn't even thinking about that. And like, if people don't know that by now, they have a bigger issue. We have a larger, educational issue, critical thinking issue, and that's a whole nother problem. and it reflects the state of education in our country anyway. Like the data shows that a significant portion of the United States don't have a college education, and not saying that the college education is the end on be all, but there's just certain facts and certain ways of thinking that is not widespread, and so that leaves a lot of people vulnerable. But the majority of Trump supporters are not gullible, as many on the left would like to think. They're not. They're very clear about the objective. It's to make America great again along the lines of its initial trajectory when it started off with slavery. I mean, the mere fact that there are people who were not down with slavery set off the impending Civil War, the imminent Civil War. And that Civil War gave rise to a new battle that we are now beginning to see take shape even more. Because people were not happy about the freedom of enslaved people. And they were not happy about the progress Black Americans made. And they fought tooth and nail. I mean, that was the whole purpose of establishing the KKK, Plessy versus Ferguson, separate but equal, right? And this country fought against the derived resentment all the way up to the Civil Rights Movement. And the Civil Rights Movement delivered another blow to racism and American fascism. And that really made a lot of conservative Americans extremely frustrated. And when Obama was elected in 2008, that was another blow. And at that time, enough was enough. So much so that, they're not going to play by the rules of the Constitution. As far as they're concerned, you can shred the Constitution, because they realize that without taking aggressive measures, this country is going to become more of a democratic state and more of a multiracial represented state. So they said, listen, all hands on deck. And we hear that and we see that when the Tea Party emerged. And the Tea Party, pretty much complained about the same thing. It's about the economics, about the economy. It's about the economy. Not at all. And so here we are. Trump actually ran very briefly because he started too late for the 2012. But it was almost like a test. It was like a preparation. And he was the king of the birther movement, which attacked Barack Obama's nationality. And so the first strategy was to say that he was an American citizen. Something similar happened with Kamala Harris too, trying to take away her blackness, trying to undermine their legitimacy in any way possible. So we're here, and it's not surprising. I mean, what we're experiencing is a backlash, and we have to keep in mind that it's a backlash, and we have to be informed. A lot of people are not; they're just seeing this in very one-dimensional, two-dimensional ways. And I think one important step the Democratic Party has to do is to be very vocal about the fact that this backlash, and begin to just educate and just put out as much as possible the historical context I talked to a lot of folks, and they're just like caught up in this presentism in a sense, like things are just happening, and then they just like buy into a bunch of conspiracy theories, not realizing that what we are seeing now is part of a long-standing trend. This is the result of people's fears that America is not going to go back to the good old days. That's what it's all about now. And we can see it in the kind of policies and different kind of political actions, the major ones, such as when Republicans gutted the Voting Rights Act. Like, why touch the Voting Rights Act? If all is good, just leave it alone. Because we know we needed it and still do. But because it is and has been very successful, people are like, we got to get rid of that so we can tamper with the voting process. So that's what's happening. Yeah. So it's very natural. I mean, what's happening is, natural cause of events. It's a domino effect. It's a bit of a chess game too, right? One move is made, another move is made, one move is made. And so, as I said, looking a few steps ahead and a few steps back into history reminds us, like, wait a minute, this is not new at all. And we shouldn't be surprised, totally surprised. I was talking to somebody who was saying, oh, we got this in the bag. Kamala Harris got this in the bag. And I'm like, no, don't think like that. We got to fight, fight, fight. And even had she won, we still would have had to protect the progress made. But we didn't win. And so there's even a bigger need for us to protect how far we've come and what we've gained. I am still encouraged in that I see this as a temporary setback. Obviously, there are risks because people could become overwhelmed, tired, and misled. But I implore you to understand that the regime surrounding Trump knows very well that they have a long road ahead of them to go as far back as they want. So, but that is only the case if we stand. I don't know if any of you have played chess, such as basketball, football. If you have the ball and you're trying to move forward, there's someone trying to stop you from moving in that direction. And that's what we're dealing with. And so there's a lot of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But we've made the most ground. African Americans have made a lot of ground. We are still pushing forward. And so a lot of people are trying to confuse us. And, they try so many things. I mean, they tried to say, oh, Black people have been radical back in the day. Oh, Black people have already made it. Black people have gotten too much. Black people, it's just da 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 da. And some of us, like I said before, are buying into it. And on this note, I want to talk about an event that I'm a part of. So, someone I know, sort of a mentor in a sense, Dr. Glenn Bembry, Reverend Dr. Glenn Bembry. He is putting together an event on Zoom, and it's on Dr. Martin Luther King's dream. I have a dream. So it's an I have a dream speech, sort of analysis, reflections. So let me put it up here so you can see this event here. And I'm one of the speakers. It's going to be 2 speakers. So let me just put this up here so you can see. And this is it here. In fact, I want to make this bigger for us. All right. I think it's still uploading. So the I have a dream speech. Here I am. And it's on the day of the inauguration. And I think that's fitting. We're going to reflect on, Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King's the day is on the day of the inauguration. So, but Donovan Thompson, but I know Reverend Dr. Glenmore Bembry. So I'm a part of this. Excited to be a part of this here. Let's see. Okay, there it is. Yeah. And this is going to be fun. I mean, there's a lot to say. I'm preparing, doing some research for this. There's a lot for me, to reflect on, and I would love to share that. And I figure, so this is on January 20th. I'm going to start, sharing my thoughts as I develop, my presentation. So that means y'all going to get a firsthand account of what I'm, dealing with if you're interested before, that day. And so this one book I've been checking out, which is pretty cool. It's called King's Dream. Let's see if I can put it up here. All right. And this book so far is an analysis of Dr. Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech. It's the origins of its deeper meanings, received meanings, and also the various ways people have embraced it and interpreted this text, his Dr. Martin Luther King's speech. Another one I have here is called Northern Protests. I use this one in my dissertation. Northern Protests, Martin Luther King Jr., Chicago, and the Civil Rights Movement. And in short, with this text is useful in helping people see the bigger picture that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. saw when he was fighting for civil rights, or in Malcolm X's terms, human rights. For Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the issue of racism was a national issue, obviously, and a global issue, in fact. Understanding that resources are limited, like any general or captain or manager of an entity or group with limited resources, he sought to create an outline of tasks to reach a goal. And so the first one was really putting an end to lynching, putting an end to the vicious segregation going on in the South for the most part. And so many people, particularly African Americans, who have been misguided, I think that this whole integration, that the civil rights movement was, this is about integration and kumbaya, holding hands and singing together around a campfire. Now, there are moments where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. will give such a picture, but you have to pay attention to his rhetorical devices. And once you understand the rhetorical device, you see why he says certain things. And so that means listening closely to reading the entire speech and listening to other speeches, looking at what he writes in the context of what he's doing. So King understood that the resources of human resources had to be organized. So working to make critical improvements in the South was important. And then afterwards, addressing the issue of the North, because obviously we know that the Northern life for African Americans was not life in the Garden of Eden. It was treacherous. And, lynching may not have in terms of the traditional term, and we had redlining and parts of different forms of discrimination occurring, which produce systemic poverty and ongoing abuse, which occurred under the radar of the law. In other words, bad things happening that were not necessarily illegal, they were unjust, and to the extent they were illegal, not seen. Okay. So that text is good for this. I do want to bring in this work here. I think this is an amazing work. I always go back to this one. It's called Black Visions, The Roots of Contemporary African-American Political Ideologies. And this book really helps, along with another that I suggest by Dr. William Cross, Shades of Black. This book helps, reminds us that there are different Black ideologies, different views of what Black progress is and what are the best means to generate Black progress, and ultimately what is the goal of making progress, and what does that look like for people who are living in the United States as opposed to Black people living elsewhere. That's pretty important, because this helps us understand how, and why people might embrace the dream and reject the dream, or those who embrace the dream see it differently. So that's going to go into my discussion for sure. At the end of the day, I'll just tell you, like, I already know, like, really what the basis of my talk I'm going to say, and that is Dr. Martin Luther King's dream is indeed under attack, because manifesting. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s manifesting. That's really the bottom line. And I'm really the racist of America has dismantled the dream and stop us from dreaming, which is one of the reasons why I love Barack Obama's slogan, "Yes, we can," and more importantly, his title of his book, "The Audacity." Okay, and I like this word hope much more than the word faith, because hope refers to desired outcome that one wants to happen and is willing to put work into happening. So that's my angle on this. My angle is that the dream has been manifested, and it has stirred up resistance, racist conservative America. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was not a popular person during his time. Look at any of the polls. Many Republicans like to embrace him and even adopt him as if he were a Republican. And I'm going to address that too. But just for now, I'll let you know the dream has been manifesting. It is still manifesting, even though it's under attack, even though in many ways it's being, stripped. But that's okay. It's capable of enduring the wear and tear of racial resentment and or other forms of oppression. The reason why it's capable, I'm not saying that it is not, I'm not saying it's immune. I'm not saying that it is incapable of being dismantled completely. The reason why it's capable of enduring the conservative resistance is because this hope resides in the generations that come after and after, right? It's an idea, it's a goal, it's a telos that we are all striving for. And that is, in many ways, this idea is, it's kind of metaphysical. It's something that's inside of us. And it motivates us to continue in the face of resistance and oppression. That's why it's tenacious, because it is born out of the fact of experiencing an obstacle. Out of that fact, something that's preventing one from getting from point A to point B. It's like, whoa, I desire to get to point B. And that's what this hope is born out of that. Really out of contentment and complete satisfaction. So this is what's happening in society. And I'm going to, obviously show some specifics, particularly, at the legal level and also at the social level. Has the lived experience also, I wanted to address, reflects the manifestation of King's dream. Because one thing, I hear a lot is that things haven't changed. Things are just as bad as they were before, or there are some conditions, categories of conditions that have not moved, have not improved in many ways. And that is truth. But the context of that truth has to be examined, because from my historical analysis, there's been tons of improvement, which has generated more and more and more frustration. It's something that has provoked Lindsey Graham, Republican senator, to say, hey, we need more angry white guys to vote. Like, why? What happened? And keeping a close eye on the provocations that trigger, the triggers that get to racist conservatives. Like, what are those triggers? Keeping a close eye on them. What has changed? If we only look at the cup being half empty, then it's hard to see the progress, because more and more is being poured into the cup. What's happening is people are trying to stop the pouring. They're trying to stop the pouring of justice, of democracy, of education and opportunity. It's like, nah, let's stop that pouring. Let's start splashing out things. That's what's going on. So I want to talk about that, and how is this, picture I'm drawing, this scenario I'm drawing, a manifestation of Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream. And that's what's going to happen, folks. So stay tuned. We're going to be back on and sharing, more. And so, yeah, that'll be something I'm really excited about. Let's see if we got any comments in any of the rooms here. So let me just check just to make sure. Let's come here. Let's see what we got going on here. And one thing I'm definitely going to address, because I'm getting sick and tired of these misunderstandings. I'm definitely going to address the whole notion of what King was going for in this, false narrative about integration, which led to a lot of people to a misunderstanding when, King's comment about the burning house. People go, oh, King said, I'm leading my people into a burning house. And they stop right there. And I'm like, okay, and what? And King realized, like, he made a mistake, or King is the op. I hear a lot of African Americans say King was the op. And I'm like, oh my goodness. It shows one of the other dimensions conservatism is using to attack, to prey on, and to attack Black progress. All right, y'all. So as you can see, we got our hands full for sure. So holler at your boy. If you check this video out, put up a like so I can know that y'all out. Yeah, talking about Dr. Martin Luther on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and on the day that Trump, the champion of supremacy and white privilege and American fascism, has been inaugurated. Stay tuned for more, my peoples. And if you got any questions on, if you got something you think like, hey, I don't know, Doc, I maybe you want something because I heard this. And let's research it, because I'm gonna get on it. So this, I'm gonna be, looking forward to doing some growth and sharing some of that, sharing some of my experience on this, because right now, this is the time for educating our minds and our community, because there's going to be a lot of disinformation spreading, as we've heard. Facebook is like, no more fact checking. So it's like, wow, who says, like, who wants to defend people's feelings by suppressing facts? That's crazy, yo. That's crazy. Do you live like that? That's my question to y'all. Do y'all live like that? I just want to pour everything in a bowl of opinion. That's how you living? I bet you when you eat your food, you ain't living like that. When you drinking something, you ain't living like that. You expect for that substance to be what it is. But I don't know. I mean, a lot of us drink things that are not, eat things that are not healthy for us anyway, right? It's like we don't care about the facts. So maybe that's just an extension of human nature on all our part. But like when it comes to politics, but that's because belief systems and political persuasion, religious persuasion trumps facts. So we're still kind of like Stone Age folk, bro. Our minds still caught up in the spiritual. Uh-oh. But like my boy Neil deGrasse Tyson said, I'm facts driven more than I am faith driven. I'm gonna end on that note. Ladies and gentlemen, it's good to be back out here on the Political Soul Food Podcast. All right, so over and out. Let's see what's good. Let's see what's good.